Hello everyone. Today's video is about the supplement Pancreatin. As per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. And if at some point you don't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. So I wanted to make a quick video about Pancreatin because it's a supplement that I prescribe all the time. And I think that it has properties to it beyond what one might generally think of when they think of pancreatin, if they think about pancreatin at all. So just for a quick background, pancreatin is basically a extract of pancreas tissue, pancreatic tissue. Generally it's from pigs, although there are some companies like Ancestral Supplements that makes, to my understanding, a bovine sourced pancreatin. I believe that there are, well, actually not I believe, I know that there are also ovine or sheep-sourced pancreatins out there as well. When it comes to pancreatin, I have the most experience with the porcine pig derived type. As a point of interest, to my understanding, the pharmaceutical grade enzymes that are out there are pancreatin. They're just in these special acid-resistant capsules as a rule, and they are micronized as well. So they're in these special little spherules to help maximize surface area. I interviewed for my podcast, my Overcoming Chronic Illness podcast, a pharmacist, Dr. Isabella Wentz. I believe she's a PhD pharmacist, a very smart cookie. And we were talking a bit about pancreatin during our interview. And if I'm paraphrasing correctly, she was saying she doesn't really see a whole lot of difference between the pharmaceutical grade pancreatin and the over-the-counter supplemental form. I believe that she was saying that the pharmaceutical companies had to do something special so that they could kind of patent it, make it a pharmaceutical grade prescription, so they put them in the special capsules, but it doesn't really seem to make much of a difference. Now, there are other docs out there that I like, smart docs that I have a lot of respect for, and they have said that it actually matters a lot and that those preparations work a lot better, like the pharmaceutical grade ones work a lot better than the over-the-counter supplement ones. In my clinical experience, I've had a couple of patients, like two, I believe, maybe three, where the pharmaceutical grade ones are definitely more effective. So that seems to just be a hands down fact for those particular cases. And then I would say I have many dozens of other patients that have used both, and it has made no difference whether it's been the pharmaceutical option or the over-the-counter supplemental one. So I won't say my jury's out. I think my jury is, well, basically that for most people it doesn't seem to make a difference which one it is, but for some, if the over-the-counter one's not working, then maybe that pharmaceutical grade one is a better option. The one difference with the pharmaceutical grade pancreatin extracts, the two that I'm aware of are Creon and Codazyme, by the way, are the names of those. To my understanding, they do spike them to have more lipase in there. So if a patient needed more fat digesting capability, then that would potentially be why it might work better for one person than another. So as far as pancreatin goes, so again, now that we kind of got that out there, so it's a pancreatic extract, digestive enzyme. So standardized have a certain amount of amylase, lipase, and protease to break down your major macronutrients. So most folks would think about pancreatin just for being what it is. It's a digestive enzyme to help you break down your food. Oh, I'm getting gassy and bloated when I eat, or I'm eating things that I have a hard time digesting. I'll take an enzyme, help me to break it down more. And that is a very good use and kind of the standard use of pancreatin. But the other way to think about pancreatin, in my opinion, is that the more efficient you are at breaking down your food, the more likely it is that the microbes that might be overgrowing in the gut, or you don't want to start overgrowing in the gut, are going to be challenged or compromised when you're digesting your food faster. So if there's a ton of, say, SIBO bacteria in the small intestine, and then the person eats their meal, with their carbs, their proteins, their fats, and then that food is just taking a long time to digest properly, well, that's going to be basically a slow-moving, all-you-can-eat buffet line for those microbes. So they're going to have a much easier time, chowing down, getting the energy they need to replicate, essentially have their version of bacteria babies and maybe perpetuate that SIBO. Whereas if then pancreatin comes down the hatch along with that food, and it's breaking that food down into smaller chunks that the small intestine cells can absorb so much faster and easier, well, then those bacteria are going to be like, oh man, why is this buffet line moving so fast? I can barely fill up my plate before the food's already gone. And that's for us, a good thing. Bad for them, good for us. It's something that, in my opinion, from what I've observed clinically, I believe that it helps to starve out those bacteria. So in many of my patients now with SIBO and LIBO, yeast overgrowth, things like that, I will oftentimes recommend pancreatin for two reasons. One is to help them hopefully have fewer gas and bloating symptoms or other indigestive symptoms faster. Who doesn't love a good bit of symptom relief sooner versus later? Such a stereotype in the functional medicine, integrated medicine, naturopathic medicine realm, where it's like, oh, like your treatments work, but they can take such a long time to work. And it's true. Many of the cases we work with, they're chronic. They're chronic because all the standard stuff didn't work. And say. More of like a traditional medicine approach, if you will, and then they come to see us and things get chronic after a time. However, we do have some tools at our disposal that can help to address symptoms sooner versus later, and pancreatin, not for all cases, but for many of them, can be one of those. So we're hopefully reducing symptoms faster, but then also I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to prescribe my oregano oil or my berberine or my bismuth or my anti-parasitic tincture or whatever it is, along with some pancreatin to help starve out those critters as well. The one last thing that I wanted to say about pancreatin is just being mindful of the dosage of pancreatin. So almost every time I prescribe something to a patient, or I'm thinking of prescribing something, I'll say, oh, have you ever taken this before? Many of the patients I work with have been to see multiple doctors before, many other naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, etc. I'm oftentimes not the first stop on their journey. Sometimes I am. But I like to ask, have you ever tried this before? Because if they say, oh yeah, I tried pancreatin and it I sprouted a third arm out of the middle of my back, it's like, oh, well, do you want a fourth arm? No? Okay, we probably shouldn't, go with the pancreatin. Whereas if they say, oh yeah, I tried that and it didn't work or whatever, then, I don't want to try to reinvent the wheel when it's already been explored. So with that being said, not all the time, but I'd say 20-ish, 25% of the time, patients say, yeah, I tried pancreatin before. Oh, how did it work? Oh, it was great. And we go from there. Or it didn't really do much for me. It's like, oh, what did you take? Well, just the other day, had a new patient. She said, oh, I was taking this product called Biogest, it's a product from the company Thorne. Thorne's a great company, make a lot of good products. But it's like, oh, I'm very familiar with that product. But I looked it up just to brush up on the ingredients in there. And sure enough, each capsule has 70 milligrams of pancreatin, which is fine, but it also has, I can't remember the exact numbers now, I think 80 milligrams of ox bile, and it was 200 or maybe 400 milligrams of, 200 milligrams, I think, of betaine hydrochlorides of stomach acid, and then some glutamic acid, which is kind of an alternative to betaine hydrochloride as a stomach acid replacement. So it's it's mostly a stomach acid capsule with a little bit of acid, or a little bit of enzyme and a little bit of ox bile. But 70 milligrams per capsule, well, that's, in my opinion, not a strong enough dose for pancreatin. And not giving any treatment advice here, but just for purposes of comparison, oftentimes somewhere between 500 to 1,000 milligrams of what's called pancreatin 8X is a nice robust dosage. That's on par, very comparable to say a prescription grade dose of coenzyme or Creon, save that the lipase content would be higher in those pharmaceutical preparations. So 70 milligrams versus 500 to 1,000 is that's no comparison whatsoever. So, if Biogest didn't work for you, well, maybe that's because you need a much, much higher dose of pancreatin. So in that case, I explained that. The patient said, oh, that makes sense. And they're trying it. We'll see how it goes. But I've had patients over time where they're taking these combination enzyme formulas with stomach acid and this, that, and the other thing. And on the label, it looks great. It's like, oh, I've got everything in there. But if the dose isn't high enough, then it's just not going to work, or not work very well. So dosage, very important. So pancreatin 8X, that's typically your strongest enzyme formula in my experience. So it's that I've been able to find. Incidentally, I have no financial affiliation with Thorne, but they do make a product called Dipan 9, which is essentially a pancreatin 8X formula. So that is an option that's out there. We typically use the Signature Supplements product because it's easier for us to get here in Canada, has a lower price point, but there are different options out there. If you've used pancreatin, you love it, you hate it, please consider posting in the comment section. Let us know about that. Any questions on this topic or anything else, post in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.